welcome to this. And yes, this will be maybe a long video. We'll see. I don't know exactly how this is going to go because I don't script anything out, of course. But not Jared. That's how me and Jared are completely opposite. He needs to script things out. I don't, though I probably should. But even when I script things out, everything actually turns out worse. So we're not going to talk about that. Anyways. So, as the title says, or will say, I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to title it, but it'll say something like, you know, UFC 129 versus Extreme Rules and spoilers, because there will be some Smackdown spoilers on this video, which I'm sure most of you probably already know about. But if you don't, hey, I'm just throwing it out there. There will be spoilers, so, you know, turn it off now, or I'll let you know when you can turn it off when I'll get to the spoiler section of this. But anyways, one of the reasons why this has taken me so long to do was Sunday when I was going to do the Extreme Rules review. Of course, real world shit went down, and I just didn't get around to it. And then yesterday, I was thinking about it. I said, you know what? Well, maybe I should talk about the UFC 129 as well. and so I started thinking about that, I just didn't get around to it. So I thought. I worked late last night, so this was just the best time to do this video. So we'll see, because, of course, Extreme Rules will probably wind up being one of the worst buy rates WWE's ever done, for a couple of reasons. The main reason, and I will clearly state this, well, probably equal reasons. One was UFC 129 was Saturday, which was, as far as live attendance, and probably gate as well, the biggest UFC show of all time. It's probably not the biggest as far as that goes. I would still say I think maybe 100 is still the bigger show overall. But this was definitely, as far as a spectacle, as far as a lot of things, you could argue that this was the biggest live event. There's 55,000 people there at this event. One of the things, if you've watched my videos, I've always kind of complained about UFC. When I've complained about UFC, is production, is the fact that, you know, I've said a couple times I did think they needed to play bigger venues. This was, of course, the biggest venue they've ever done. And they did up the production values a little bit, though the entrance music, I hear live the entrance music came off really well, but watching it, it came off. They needed to turn up the music just a little bit, in my opinion. But it was a vast improvement over a lot of what we usually get from UFC. So big ups to them for that, because it was one of the things that I've always kind of complained about. I'm glad they did a big event. I hope they do more of these, and supposedly this is going to be maybe a yearly thing. This is kind of like their WrestleMania. And it came off kind of like a WrestleMania. I mean, it was that big of it had that feel to it. You had all of these people watching a UFC event. They were very much into it. The event, except till the main event, was really, really good. Great, even. Pretty great, actually. Very great, if you consider everything on the undercard. They showed everything on... They showed the... everything that was not shown on television was shown on Facebook. I am curious... maybe by the time I get this up, maybe I'll get the numbers. But I am curious how many people actually watched it on Facebook, just for my own curiosity. The undercard, which had a lot of great stuff on it. But really, the production is really what I want to talk about, because I thought that kind of the main fights, they did kind of do more of an entrance theme type thing when the guys came out, which put the guys over a little bit more. And a lot of this, they did a lot of the things that I really wish UFC would do more of, and so it was good to see. I don't know if they'll continue to do this, but they mic'd the crowd pretty well as well. I mean, it was very much, it felt like a big event. It felt like that, and I think that's one thing where they kind of let boxing kind of corner them into a corner where, okay, you guys can't be too much like pro wrestling. Now, boxing, we can steal all the crap from pro wrestling we want, but you can't, because you're too much like pro wrestling, and we're going to keep pointing that out so that you won't do these things that we do, that we steal from pro wrestling, so it'll work so you won't, type of thing. Which, you know, is another thing. I wish the MMA news people would just stop listening to the boxing people, because, you know, boxing has one fight. Everything is basically They have one fight. They're, you know, the sport is basically off of life support because of one fight, and that fight could be over this weekend if Pacquiao loses. When I'm making this video, and then boxing will go back on life support. So, you know, why would you be listening to these boxing guys? I've never understood. I've never understood why the MMA community listens to these boxing idiots. Because that's basically what they're just trying to save their own sport, and they just don't get it. I never understood that. But anyways, it was a very good event. The production was much better. Apparently, they spent a lot more than WWE did on the event than WWE did on WrestleMania, and a lot of that had to do with the video screens that were there live. So it was nothing that we necessarily could see on television, but. You know, there's still, you know, as far as HBO boxing, I still think they're behind when it comes to video packages during the shows and other things. And the announcing, I did think Goldberg was pretty horrendous, particularly during the main event. Folks, and I'm sure there's videos, and I just haven't seen it. But if GSP got poked in the eye, or if it would have looked like to me when they showed it down, and this is why you need someone that is probably a little bit more experienced when it comes to, I guess, combat sports, I guess if you want to say, what it really looked like from someone that has watched boxing most of my entire life, and something I've seen happening in boxing matches all the time, that GSP got hit, but more of a graze, and the glove scratched his eye, which is something that happens in boxing a lot. You know, even sometimes more than in boxing, more than a guy getting poked with a thumb. Often the seam of the glove or something on the glove comes, the guy does just the right kind, and it grazes the eye enough to scratch the eye, and the guy can't see. That's what it looked like to me. Now maybe later it'll, you know, like I said, maybe he got poked in the eye, I don't know, but that's what it looked like to me. And they just put it off that, you know, he got hit in the eye, and it definitely, when they slowed it down, looked at it, didn't look like he just got hit in the eye, because it looked like there was probably something more happening. Just me, that's just me pointing that out, and I might be completely wrong on that. If I am, I am. But anyways, so really good event. It will probably be the biggest event, buy rate wise for UFC this year. And of course, then you had Extreme Rules coming after it, and because of that, Extreme Rules probably, you know, will do sub 100,000 buys, which sucks for them. But it's too bad, because this was a pretty great show, and this is to me, I thought this show was great, and to really say, this is, I've talked about this before with particularly with TNA. That, you know, TNA cannot afford to put on bad pay-per-views. WWE can. WWE can put on like 2 bad pay-per-views, particularly since they put on like 14 pay-per-views a year. They can put on 2 bad pay-per-views a year. Maybe 3 okay pay-per-views, subpar pay-per-views, just pay-per-views that for whatever reason, maybe the matches just didn't click or something, and they're just kind of subpar, just okay. And then the majority of the pay-per-views need to be good, and then the rest of them, you know, probably, you know, I would say maybe 6 that are good, and then, you know, everything else needs to be great. Maybe 4 great pay-per-views a year. Where, you know, TNA, they can't put on any bad pay-per-views. They can put on a couple of subpar pay-per-views, also because they're only putting on 12 shows a year. You know, maybe 4 or 5 good pay-per-views, and then everything, you know, they need to put on like 6 great shows a year. Just they have to do that. They have to do that. And of course, they haven't done that. And, you know, last great show they put on was what? You know, right before Hogan took over. I mean, those 2 back-to-back shows. That was the last really great pay-per-view that I can remember. I mean, maybe people that have been watching TNA can actually, you know, can inform me that I'm wrong, but that would be the last 2 that I've heard of that they've done. So this is the type of show WWE needs to put on more of. And I don't mean that in like, oh, this needs to be the top level, because they definitely need to put on better shows than this. But this was a great show, and this is a type of show they definitely need to put on more of. Particularly when you consider there was 8 matches. Keep in mind that this show was an hour shorter than WrestleMania. It was a better show than WrestleMania, because they didn't do all the stupid video packages and all the other stupid crap. They were able to, give everybody time, let everyone go out there and do their thing, and put on, it's amazing when you give WWE talent time, how well they just go out there and they do stuff, and they do a really good job. So there you go. But let's start with the actual pay-per-view review. We had the last man standing match, Randy Orton, CM Punk. I liked this. I liked this a lot. I thought this was very good. I also liked the fact that they actually built up. This was, to me, what an old school last man standing match is. You've got these WWE last man standing matches, which I don't really like that much. Because to me, and I was kind of raised up on this, so this is probably why I see that way. A last man standing match meant you were in for a long freaking match, because it was literally last man standing. And that meant that, they were going to hit each other with all sorts of crazy stuff. Guys had to go down. Maybe you would get punches. Maybe you would get, all sorts of just crazy stuff. And the match was probably going to go 30 to 45 minutes. I mean, that's just the way it was going to be. This was a main event type match that you would get. And, we got a pretty long match here. So I really liked it. I thought it was really good. I will say this, Orton did win, and when Orton won, the crowd, which was very much into it, because they popped for some of the moves, and then Orton won, and they were just kind of like, oh, yay, Orton won. So I'm wondering if they didn't pick the right guy to go over, even though I know Punk may be on his way out. Maybe not, I don't know. Tonight on Twitter, he did pop up and say, have you heard any good rumors lately, which I thought was pretty funny. So, there you go there. Then we got a bonus match because, of course, we didn't get the full 8 matches. We only got 6 matches announced as far as before the show, which is stupid, and is one thing I will give TNA credit for, because usually, we do know what all the matches are going to be before the pay-per-view. WWE's gotten in this stupid rut, and this comes to one of the problems with WWE right now, because WWE has forgotten that, yes, they're an entertainment company, but they are also a promotion company, and they are promoting their events for crap. And this event was promoted for crap. The fact that we didn't get, 8 matches promoted probably hurt it. The fact that, when you look at UFC, even the B and C shows for UFC are presented as events, and that helps them. WWE pay-per-views, they're not presented as events, and that's the problem, is they need to be presented as events. They need to be presented as something more than they are. They can't just be the stuff that you can see on TV. You know what? These need to have good wrestling matches on them. These need to be, oh wow, you turn into the pay-per-view to see the good wrestling. Maybe the entertainment stuff's on TV, but this is what you turn into to see the wrestling as on the pay-per-views. And this is why I think Backlash used to work. This is why I think this pay-per-view worked, even though it was Extreme Rules. I think this is why it worked, was because they let them go out there and put on good wrestling matches. And I think that's why it works. And people like the show. People seem to enjoy the show a lot. And I think that's what you have to do. For WWE to build their pay-per-view audience, you do it slowly. You don't, it doesn't just, for the most part, it doesn't just flip a switch. WWE just didn't flip a switch and start beating WCW. It took a long time. It took them building stuff up. It took them building new stars. And then, yes, it looked like it just flipped the switch. But if you were there and you saw it, you could see the momentum changing. It was just, okay, when is WWE finally going to, start beating WCW? So, promotion is the name of the game, and they're not doing very good at promoting because they've isolated themselves with other business ventures that they don't have to promote anymore, and really that hurts their shows. And this is the type of show, that's why I said this type of show they need to put on more of. 8 matches, for the most part, all the matches were pretty good. You had a couple of clunkers, but you're always going to have some clunkers, I think. just for various reasons. So, but this was, this is what they need to be putting on more. But, bring back to promotion. We had a tables match between Sheamus and Kofi, which, for the U.S. title, which, of course, was not promoted. And, I guess this was like the first match I really noticed where I was like, wait a minute, they only have to go through one table? Because I remember the days when, as Big Rat pointed out on Twitter, the best 3 out of 5 table spots, basically you had to go through 3 tables to win the match. And I still think that's a little bit better, but you are going through a bunch of tables, and that's probably not the best thing. So this is probably better safety-wise. But yeah, they went out there. They had a pretty good match, I would say. Did their thing. The end spot with Kofi was pretty awesome. I will not deny. I really liked it. So there you go. Then we had the country whipping match with JR and Jerry the King Lawler versus Jack Swagger and McCool. This was actually, I would say, okay. It was short. It was much more along the lines of what the WrestleMania match should have been. That's about all I have to say about that. I still don't know about Michael Cole going over, but whatever. I think this angle took its, ran its course after WrestleMania. Now they're just milking it, and it just comes off really crappy now. I mean, the Falls Count Anywhere was match, which was kind of funny since it ended in the ring. But anyways, Rey Mysterio versus Cody Rhodes, good match. I think it was still about as good as what they had at WrestleMania. Some good spots, some good stuff. They worked well together. It was what it was. Then we had a loser leaves WWE no DQ match, where they kind of changed the stipulations on this because I guess Michelle McCool decided that if Undertaker was staying home, she was staying home, and this was they went out there and they really tried to do everything they could. But, the crowd didn't care. It's a Divas match. They've been told not to care. Of course, they also tried to, have Layla be face at the very last second. And a lot of this definitely has to do with, Michelle McCool was getting ready to leave, so they had to, they had to do a lot of things really quick. I understand that. Still thought this was an okay match. Pretty good by Divas standards. Match ended. All of that, and of course then we got Karma, amazing, awesome Kong entrance. She came out, great facials, because she does have great facials, was laughing, looked intimidating, came into the ring, destroyed Michelle McCool. They showed the Divas backstage. They were all like, "Ah," because amazingly, and this is one thing I think the WWE has kind of, they've never kind of gotten with how they view the Divas, is you need an anti-diva. You probably need 2 anti-divas. 2 women who don't fall into the category of divas. You need 2 of, I would say at least 1, but probably 2 of them. And we finally have that. And I think that she's going to get over because of that. Much the same way that with the Knockouts division, and this is kind of one of my problems before I stopped watching TNA, I had with the Knockouts division, is, the Knockouts division should have been a bunch of, women who wouldn't necessarily be seen on WWE TV, or if they were, they'd be kind of like the outcast, kind of the anti-divas, for the most part. And then you have, the beautiful people who are, kind of portrayed as the divas, and they come off, because that's what you need to do, and I think it really separates what, sort of thing. Then we had, and this is where the spoilers will come in, the match that, most people have been talking about, the ladder match, Alberto Del Rio versus Christian. Christian finally getting his shot at the WWE Championship, which, Big Rat talked about this on his video. I have continually said, and I will continue to say this, that, I've always said when people have brought up, Christian, not getting a main event push, Christian not getting a main event push. In years past, the reason why I've said that is because I always thought there were guys ahead of him who were better main eventers. Now, and I still think that he's not what I would consider a main event guy. But then again, I don't think there's a lot of guys in WWE that are main event guys right now, mainly because you haven't had any guys really pushed or made, so you have a problem. So for everyone, but of course, Christian won, was a really good ladder match. Christian's been in a lot of these, so he knew what he was doing. excellent stuff. Really liked it. You know, amazingly, Alberto Del Rio did not die at that last spot, which it looked like I thought he might have. But Christian won. Place went crazy. Was a great moment, I will admit. And then, of course, for those of you not aware, and I'm making this on Tuesday, so I already know the Smackdown spoilers, and that's where the spoilers comes in. Christian lost the title, though it was said to be an excellent match, especially television match, to Randy Orton, which that's good, because that means that at least he was probably made look on the same level as Randy Orton for the title. Now, as I've said, I don't necessarily think Christian is what I would consider a main eventer. However, the WWE right now has a lack of main eventers, and a huge lack. Keep in mind that with Raw and SmackDown, WWE needs, at the bare minimum, I would say 6 guys that were main eventers. They really need probably 10. 8 or 10. I mean, 6 is still not probably where they need to be. And when I say that, I mean, you need like 3 on SmackDown, 3 on Raw. 4 on SmackDown, 4 on Raw. You need that type of dynamic. Not like we see, you know, a bunch of guys top heavy on Raw, and then SmackDown maybe have 2 or 3. I mean, you need a pretty even fair of it, even if you use SmackDown as a way to build up main eventers, which I think you can do, and then you know, kind of top heavy Raw, which is they're going to do anyways. So at this moment, at this time, if you give Christian the belt, you definitely should at least let him run with it. Though, if you read the spoilers, you will notice that there is, and I'm just throwing this out there, there is a chance that maybe what they're doing, because SmackDown is very face heavy right now, or I shouldn't say, they're face heavy at the top. There aren't any top level. There's not a really top level heel on SmackDown. So this could be a way of turning Christian heel, which maybe some people won't like. But this may be that because of the way they set it up. I won't go into everything, but they may have done that. If that's the case, maybe eventually this will work out. But I definitely think that even if that is the case, you could slowly start. There's other ways you could have turned Christian heel and still let him have the title. I would say, maybe not, but you can see where that goes. But you also could have given Christian the title for a month, seen what he could have done with it, seen if he could have ran with it, seen what he could have done with it, and try to make something out of it and turn Orton heel. Because, of course, Orton right now would make a better heel anyway. So, that's just me. I'm sure that's not what the WWE wanted to do. Whatever. Anyways, then we got the Tag Team Championship match. The Big Show versus the Corre. Again. This was what it was, literally. Wasn't a good match. They're setting up. I guess they're trying to push Ezekial Jackson as, like, him and Wade Barrett. Whatever. I don't know. This match was just like, why, it was on here. It was what it was. But, Wade Barrett has the bigger upside to me, so I don't know why you try to make him look like the bad guy here. But anyways, forget about that match. Then we had the Steel Cage match, 3-way, John Morrison, The Miz, and John Cena. Really good match. They had set up before with R-Truth. R-Truth cutting a pretty good promo. He's cut some really good, I think, heel promos, and saying basically it was a conspiracy, and pretty much setting up the fact that, he was going to cost John Morrison the title, and he did, and it was pretty good, and it was very good how they did it. John Cena won. Surprise, surprise. Though he hasn't had the title in a year, and I don't know if he will hold the title for a year, but we'll see. I think that'll be an interesting dynamic if he can hold the title for a year, and then if he doesn't, like what does he do? Because he wants that match at WrestleMania to be Rock and John Cena for the title. So we'll see where that goes. But this was a very good match, and overall I thought this was a great pay-per-view. I really did. And like I said, this is the type of match this is the type of pay-per-view I wish we could get more of. WWE's talent roster is so depleted that really, think about it. You've got 8 matches on this pay-per-view. That's 4. Let's just break it down. That's you can do 4 Raw matches and 4 SmackDown matches. And pretty much you're talking maybe if you actually had enough main eventers, 2 top Raw matches, 2 top SmackDown matches. That leaves you 6 other matches. That leaves you, that you can do, plus some mid-card stuff. If they would just build up their talent and would actually just let their talent just kind of, if they lose Punk, they're fucked. I'm sorry. If Punk decides he's going to take his ball and go home, which I don't know if he is or not, just throwing this out there, one of the guys that we were at WrestleMania with actually got to talk to Homicide, who was apparently drunk off his ass, and said to him, he goes, well, Punk's not happy, he's actually thinking about going, and I was just kind of like, I think he's probably going to he's trying to pull a Jericho and saying he's going to leave just so that, he can get some political power. But if Punk decides to take his ball and go home, WWE's screwed. I mean, who have they made? And every person they've tried to make, they've pretty much, in my opinion, failed at. The guys they haven't tried to make, like Punk, who they make and then they stop and then he gets over and then they do this weird shit with him and then he gets over again. I think they've kind of got to the point of, well, he's going to get over no matter what, so just push him. They just haven't done it. Now, to Triple H's credit, and Big Rat brought this up on his video as well, so I'm going to give him credit there. Triple H has been the guy that he's in charge when guys come up, as far as, doing video packages and that sort of thing, and how they're brought into the company. So we've seen that with Karma, we've seen it with Sin Cara. He's done a very good job with both. I've always said, as much as people know that I'm not a big fan of Triple H, I always said I think the guy is very smart, and that's one of the reasons why I get so frustrated and upset, is because I know the guy is smart when it comes to wrestling, and then he does stupid wrestling stuff. So, but he's done a very good job with that. But you still have guys like Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan's a very good example. Not that I think Daniel Bryan should be a main eventer, but here's a guy who definitely excels when you give him longer matches. So he would be good if you put him on pay-per-view, where he can do longer matches, and at least the pay-per-view crowd would get over. That's why him being on SmackDown is probably a really good idea, because on SmackDown he'll be able to go out there and do longer matches than he would on Raw. So, a guy like him, who can go out there and just get himself over, because he's going to get himself over in the ring more than he's ever going to get himself over with skits and on the mic or anything else. It's just the way it is, and there's guys like that. So, again, I think one of the things with this pay-per-view, when you compare kind of UFC 129 and you compare this pay-per-view promotion, UFC right now is kicking the crap out of WWE when it comes to promotion. And the fact that, we just you don't have a lot of stars, and then, of course, they have Christian, and it got people excited, and they just take the belt off him, and it pisses everybody off, because it makes people feel like, well, screw that. That's not who we wanted. And if you truly feel that way, and you're truly upset about it, and the other part of that, by the way, is every single one of you that have said you wanted Christian to have the title, the fact that we pretty much knew Christian was going to have the title, and none of you fools bought this pay-per-view, says a lot, by the way. So, and yes, I know some of you are going to get mad. Yes, Brandon, I know you're going to get mad for me saying that, but it's the damn truth, and you know it. If you truly get this upset over WWE, don't come on here and bitch. Don't come, too much. Don't go on Twitter and throw a little hissy fit. You know what you do? You know what you do? You take your money that you would spend on WWE, and you spend it on another wrestling product. That's what you do. If you just go spend it on something else, and not on another wrestling product, you're not going to help anything. If you truly want to help wrestling, spend it on, I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's PWG, I don't care if it's Char, I don't care if it's Ring of Honor, I don't care if it's Dragon Gate. I don't care if, whatever it is, as long as it is a wrestling product and you're spending money on it, to send a message to WWE, because TNA, if you want to go spend money on TNA, go buy one of Don West's crazy insane deals. But, money is going to send a bigger message to the WWE. And not just, okay, I've stopped buying pay-per-views. Okay, because to WWE, that just means, okay, it's just because the pay-per-view market's dead. It's not because, people don't like what we're doing. That's because the pay-per-view market is. That's the thought that's their mentality. Okay, is that, well, the pay-per-view market's dead, so, that's really not our fault. You need to show them that, you know what, it's not that the pay-per-view market's dead, it's that you suck. That's the problem with it. And if you show that, you know what, I'm willing to buy a DVD from a company, I'm willing to buy an iPay-per-view, I'm willing to do whatever, then you're going to send a far, far better message to WWE than, you know, coming on here and griping, coming on here and bitching, coming on here and doing whatever. Spend money on something else. There's my message. There's my message. There's my message. Some of you will not agree. I understand. But, again, this was a great pay-per-view. I wish the WWE would put on more pay-per-views like this. But I don't see Over the Limit being, you know, promoted any better than this pay-per-view was. And I don't think they're going to put on any, you know, I would be shocked if they put on a show as good as this. And that's unfortunate because it should, you know, they need to put on better shows. Because if they put on better pay-per-views, magically, I almost guarantee the pay-per-view numbers will, not overnight, it's going to be gradual, but will gradually start to go up. And, you know, and of course, you need to build up new stars, which they haven't been able to do for, you know, 3 years now. So, anyways, with that, I'm out. Have a good one.